When you think of class-based FPS games, you probably think of games like Overwatch, Team Fortress 2, Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant, and they all follow the same formula. All of the characters are split up into various roles, like Fragger, Support, Flex. Except for Rainbow Six, Siege just gives you a list of operators to play, but it doesn't force you, the player, into playing that role. What I mean is that in Overwatch, if you pick Mercy, who's a support character, and try to play as a Fragger, you'll have a really tough time. But if you play Siege and pick Thermite, who's also a support character, you'll easily be able to just run around and frag like you're playing Ashe. You probably shouldn't, and your teammates might hate you, but you could. My whole point here is that roles in Siege are a lot more grey than they are black and white in other FPS games, and it can be difficult to figure out what role really suits you best. And that's what we're talking about today. Hello Internet, my name is Nebulous, let's get into it. Just before we jump into the video here, I just want to let you know that I do stream over on twitch.tv/Mr. Nebulous. So if you have any questions I don't answer in this video, or just anything Siege related at all, feel free to go drop a follow on the stream and we can talk about it next time I'm live. Alrighty, first, let's go over what roles we actually have in Siege. A lot of people seem to separate out the roles of Roamer and Anchor for the defense, because Siege has a different operator pool for both the attack and the defense, whereas other class-based FPSs share one hero pool for both sides, think Overwatch or Valorant. But personally, I don't really see the point in distinguishing between a Fragger and a Roamer, or a support and an Anchor, because in Siege, as I mentioned, you can do whatever you want with whoever you want. Want to roam with Mirror? Go for it. Want to anchor on site with Cav? Feel free. But just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And this is why, in my opinion, the only 3 roles you need to learn in Siege are Fragger, Flex, and Support. So now we've established what roles we have, let's break them down one by one. So let's start with everyone's favourite, the fragging role. As a fragger, what are your responsibilities in game? Well, exactly what it says on the label. You do the pew-pews. Okay, right, but what operator should you be playing? What should you really be doing as a fragger? I like to classify fragging ops as really any operator that is relatively self-sufficient and whose main goal is to get kills. And by self-sufficient, I mean operators that don't require much, if any teamwork to fully utilize them. So on defense, you're looking at operators like a Vigil, an Alibi, Ella, Jaeger, and even the new operator Melusi to some extent. Moving over to the attacking side, and we're going to keep the same ideas for what makes a fragging operator. So on the attack, you'll be looking to play a decently wide variety of operators, from Ashe, Twitch and Zofia, to ops like Sledge and Jackal. Again, you can frag out on any operator in the game, but if you're filling this role for your team, you should be trying to avoid picking operators where either your utility is needed by your teammates, like a Capitao or a Thatcher, or where you need to stay alive until you're trying to execute onto site, like a Hard Breacher or a Shield operator, like a Monty. Next up, let's talk support. What classifies an operator as a support? What makes you a support player? In general, you'll be responsible for, funnily enough, supporting your team through watching cams, droning them in, and using your utility to either execute onto site if you're attacking, or to halt said execute if you're on the defense. In general, on the defensive side, you're going to be the one in charge of bringing a shotgun and opening up most of, if not all of the site rotations that your team will need throughout the round, especially now Mozzy's lost his super shorty. As far as operators go, you'll probably be playing ops like Smoke, Mute, Maestro, Echo and Mirror if they're ever not banned. If you're playing support on defense, you should also be the one sat on cams for a lot of the round to assist your teammates, or you could say support your teammates, who are roaming or that aren't playing on site. As a support player, you're also generally the most important people in the final minutes of the round, especially if you're playing Smoke or have a Nitro Cell on a Mute or whoever. This is because as a support player, you're basically the last line of defense for the attackers pushing onto the bomb site, so gadgets like Toxic Babes and Nitro Cells are incredibly useful in the dying seconds of the round. As for your role on the attacking side, you'll generally be playing the Hard Breacher role. Oh, okay, calm down. At least on the bright side, you get to play the new operator. Although you might think that playing Hard Breach is boring, or that you just don't want to do it, just remember, Hard Breach is one of the most important roles on the attacking side. If you don't believe me, try and win a match of Clubhouse or Bank or Theme Park without a Hard Breacher. I bet you'll struggle. But what about maps like Coastline where you don't need a Hard Breacher, I hear you say? Well, in that case, you'll probably be the one watching flanks and bringing some form of necessary utility for executing onto site, so an operator like Gridlock is great in that situation. Third and finally, the Flex role, which basically encompasses every operator I haven't covered so far: Nomad, IQ, Capitao, Castle, Goyo, and all the rest of them. This is probably the role that a lot of higher tier players fall under, as naturally there's a lot to learn and even more to master, with every operator being pretty different from each other. For example, if you're playing a Nomad, your role will be completely different than if you were playing a Capital, say. However, both of these would fall under your responsibility as a flex player. The same goes for the defense as well. Castle and Pulse are both situational flex operators, but their roles in-game are completely different. Being a good flex player means that you've got a deep operator pool you can pull from, especially in the case of maps like Bank or Theme Park that require 2 hard breaches. You might need to play a secondary hard breacher like Ace or Habana. Likewise, if you're playing Coastline and your team needs more fraggers, you might need to play a Buck for extra soft breach utility. Basically, as a flex player, you'll need to be able to fill in for whatever role or operator your team is missing and needs in order to pull off whatever strat you're trying to do. Alrighty, so let's recap everything we've talked about. The 3 primary roles within Siege: support, the fragger, and the flex role. If you're more of a passive player that prefers to help the team by giving callouts and playing hard breaching operators, and the other slower utility-based operators, the support role is probably for you. If you have great mechanical skill, and you like roaming, and you've got decent game sense and map awareness, and a more aggressive playstyle, you're probably more of a fragger. And if you find yourself just playing a bit of everything, a jack of all trades if you will, you're most likely a flex player. If there's one thing I hope you guys can take away from this video, it's that while you may feel comfortable in your playstyle, whether that's a support or a fragger, I encourage you to all step out of your comfort zone and practice different playstyles, and learn how to play different operators. At the end of the day, the more experience you gain with every operator in the game, the more you can see and understand the game from different perspectives, and you'll wind up a more well-rounded, overall better player. Anyway, that about wraps up today's video. I hope you've learned a thing or two, and if you enjoyed the video, click that thumbs up down below. If not, feel free to dislike. I do post new videos every Tuesday and Friday, so feel free to subscribe and ring that notification bell down below. As I mentioned earlier, I also do stream on Twitch, so feel free to go follow me over on that page, and we can chat about things live, whether that's any of the new EU League or the North American League or anything. As well, we have an awesome Discord filled with people like yourselves. Links, of course, for all of these, as always, are in the description down below. And as always, happy gaming.